Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair. Now, Evil Dead 2 was pretty much a given after the first was a surprise overnight cult hit, though it isn't quite as simple as Raimi just running after the money. First thing Raimi wanted to do was show he was capable of more than B-grade horror, so he and Campbell worked on a comedy crime drama, Crime Wave, in 1985. Of course, his project didn't do all that well, and worrying that following this path might flush his opportunity at making it big down the toilet, Raimi took up Irvin Shapiro's offer to produce a sequel to The Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. Not to say that Raimi wasn't interested in making this movie. I mean, the script for Evil Dead 2 was finished while Crime Wave was still in production. Just, if that were more successful, he might have sat on it a little longer. But in any case, Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn begins right where the last movie started. Some say this is because the original plan was to have a highlight reel at the beginning to catch the audience up on the story, but for one reason or another they didn't have the rights to use the footage that way, so instead, Evil Dead 2 opens with a highly abridged version of the events of the first movie. This has made some, including myself, think of the second film more as a remake, or a requel as it were, but in any case the story does continue well after where the first movie leaves off. Also, the direction in the retold events is quite a bit different from the first, as Raimi sought to make this more of a comedy this time around, and focusing on entertainment factor and having a fuck-ton more money to do it with, let's see how Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn fares. After a special effects stop-motion extravaganza introduces all of us to the concept of the Book of the Dead, complete with it being lost at the turn of the 14th century, we find Ash and Linda are heading off to a secluded cabin. Ash played by Bruce Campbell, of course, but Linda this time being portrayed by Denise Bixler.
Are you sure it's deserted?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
Also, this time they didn't rent the place for unknown reasons. They're going off for a romantic getaway of squatting. Somehow that makes less sense. They get settled in record time, and Ash shows off his skills as a pianist while Linda dances about in her underwear. But truth be told, she isn't keen on getting down and dirty because she's concerned that the owners might come home at any moment. Convinced there's no chance of that, Ash tries to calm her concerns with good old-fashioned liquid courage.
What do you say we have some champagne, eh, baby? Huh?
Sure.
After all, I'm a man and you're a woman. At least last time I checked.
And if you're not, after enough champagne, well, who honestly cares? Funny thing though, they happen to leave the champagne right next to the old tape recorder, and woman going around with no pants is interesting and all, but creepy books bound by human flesh just have this thing about them that arrest everyone's attention. Playing the tape, and with it, the incantation to summon the demonic spirits, this results in the obvious.
Linda?
No, it was Shelley who was possessed by that crashed window. Linda was possessed by being stabbed in the ankle with a pencil. Why am I complaining about this? This results not in the creepy doll Linda, but the shark-toothed ghoul friend. Other than that, these parts are mostly reprised from the first movie, such as Ash decapitating the woman with a vorpal shovel, burying her in the yard, and then having the evil force tear through the cabin and get him in the morning. However, this time we see what happens after that, with Ash being pulled through the air and flung around like a big fleshy novelty, before this happens. It's a good thing that that puddle of water was there to break his fall. Otherwise, 20 feet down, that could... But when the hell did it rain? I know there was a whole ton of thunder in the night, but, did it ever precipitate? Though it looks like meteorology is the least of our problems, as the evil spin cycle has in fact possessed Ash, stripping him of his humanity. Except that sun, which is already up, is actually what drives away the spirits. At least on occasion, freeing Ash of his curse just as quickly as he was stricken with it. As this turn of events is already putting the character through more shit than he had to deal with in the last movie, he moves to get the fuck out of there. Of course, we still have this problem. Come to think of it, if the evil thingamajig has already possessed Ash, what purpose exactly does it have in making sure he doesn't leave? And it's not like he can go down to the local priest and ask for an exorcism for this shit. Why doesn't it want to spread? It's got the guys, and that's just quarantine yourself? Okay. Along with shit going wrong, it looks like Ash accidentally hit the button to wait a few hours in this Bethesda game, resulting in the darkness that allows the demonic force free reign to chase his ass back to the safety of the cabin, which has proven to be anything but safe. Somehow he manages to hide from the evil in it, though. I mean, like, seriously. From the Force's perspective, it can't find Ash and leaves. This gives us the opportunity to jump over and introduce some new characters. The cabin owner's daughter, Annie, played by Sarah Berry, and her boyfriend, Ed, played by Richard DeMeyer.
Annie, you hinted in your telegram that your father was onto something with the first part of his translations. What has he found in the Book of the Dead?
Probably nothing.
I just play along with that old man's silly ramblings. But you're holding pages of the Book of the Dead. Oh, these? I picked them up at Walmart. While they slowly make their way to the cabin, Ash is stuck there for another night of demonic torture. This time finding out that the evil spirits have learned to play piano even better than he. And worse than that. Now, I'm not going to bother with the censor smileys on her dead ass. I mean, first of all, even though the stop motion is nice, and this is a Blu-ray release, there's not really enough detail in those areas to warrant censoring. And on top of that, YouTube's policies actually are okay with nudity on a woman if she's, dead and decapitated and mutilated and stuff like that. Just not if anyone's having sex with her, or could want to. That's a no-no. As the rest of the gang has been reduced to just Linda, it shouldn't surprise us too much that she's the one to come back from the dead to torture Ash. And Ash is tortured quite heavily in this movie. After beating his head in, he wakes up screaming in the rocking chair. So, was it all just a dream? Nope, Linda's head drops in, then clamps down on his hand, resulting in him running around and beating her head on everything he can to try to free himself from her vice-like grip. With that in mind, he heads out to the shed to grip her head in a vice, finally freeing him of the pain, but as she now just sits there taunting him, he goes to finish the job.
Chainsaw.
Hey, look on the bright side, you don't gotta go looking for it now. A quick deflection later, and Linda's body dismembers itself, giving Ash enough time to appreciate the nuances of splitting his girlfriend's head in two. Now that things are getting a little on the crazy side, he takes the handy-dandy double-barrel shotgun off the wall, then goes to give himself a pep talk by the mirror.
I don't think so.
Okay, now, that is a hell of a lot more impressive than the water trick.
We just cut up our girlfriend with a chainsaw. Does that sound fine?
It depends on the context. Was she really into Mortal Kombat X? Mirror Ash then tries to kill Ash, but then he's not there. Besides, Ash doesn't need a doppelganger to try to take his life when it turns out the hand Linda chomped down on has been possessed by the evil and is already trying to kill him.
You bastards! You dirty bastard!
First you take my girlfriend, and then my backup! While Ash passes the time arm wrestling, we see that Annie and Ed have reached the bridge to the cabin, but the fact that it has been annihilated by an ancient evil force is a bit inconvenient. However, the road worker Jake, played by Dan Hicks, and his wife-slash-girlfriend Bobby Jo, played by Cassie Wesley DePavia, are willing to guide the two down the trail to the cabin for a small fee.
40 fat. $100.
Plus meals. There's a Joe's Crab Shack down the way, and I'm a bit peckish. All these negotiations are exciting and all, but let's go back to the cabin where the five-fingered terror is exacting revenge on Ash for all those years of servitude. But why torture him when you can instead inch slowly towards the convenient cleaver and finish the job? Wait, so was Ash just pretending to be knocked out and his hand didn't realize it? And wouldn't this also mean that the knife was closer than the cleaver? And I know his hand has no brains, but still, no bother. What also happens to be just within arm's reach is that handy-dandy chainsaw. Okay, now I'm honestly very happy that when Linda's head fell in Ash's lap, she didn't try to bite him on the dick. Especially considering the hand escapes its confines and continues to taunt the man as it crawls around. Or at least it seems that way, as some things that happen make me question if it's real or just going on in his mind. And I guess the incantation could have summoned Quentin Tarantino to the cabin, but they never really specified that. If you ask me, the idea that it's all just Ash going crazy only increases in probability when every single inanimate object around him becomes animated. It could be worse. It could be asking for a citation. It's not just the trophy bug either. The lamps, the books, everything starts laughing. As does Ash. It's just a big gaggle of giggling goons. Yet I just can't look away. So, was that all in his head? Because everyone just walked up to the cabin like they couldn't hear it going on. Of course, Ash was also cackling and yelling too, so... Oh... Knowing there's a madman in there with a shotgun, Jake rushes in to tackle them. As they knock him out long before they get any answers out of him, and only recognize the place is wrecked and he's covered in blood, Jake decides to toss Ash in the basement while they figure out what to do with him. Fortunately, the tape player is nearby, and Annie is able to listen to her father describe what happened. Evidently, after he recited the incantation, strangely enough, it actually worked, possessing his wife, Henrietta, with evil spirits. He couldn't bear to dismember her body to dispel it, though, so he just tucked her away, out of sight.
I buried her in the cellar. God help me, I buried her in the earthen floor of the fruit cellar.
But all things considered, she didn't seem all that enthused on going out and trying to kill people until halfway through the movie. When the hell did the evil spirits change from insomniacs to narcoleptics? Obviously, Ash is not too excited to be trapped down here with a resurrected Henrietta, played by Sam Raimi's younger brother, Ted. The combination of the guys upstairs not being sure if they can trust him, plus Ash slamming on the trap door as Jake tries to fiddle with the key, drags this escape out as long as possible, resulting in the demonically transformed Henrietta doing quite a bit of damage to everyone in the vicinity before they manage to jam her back into the basement. Also, swallowing the eye does nothing to possess Bobby Joe or even give her slight discomfort later. So let me get it straight. Biting, possession. Hearing incantation, possession. Saying incantation or pressing play on a recorder to play an incantation, not possession. And eating demon, not possession. Okay, I think I got it. Along those lines, Ash and the rest of the gang try to figure out what's going on here. They settle on the idea that there's something evil that has come back from the dead, tormenting them in this place. And also trying to trick them as Henrietta transforms again, this time into actress Louis Hancock, trying to convince Annie to unlock the trapdoor. Ash, however, sternly gives her a look of disapproval.
That thing in the cellar is not my mother.
Alright, so getting thrown into a wall really hard, possession. At least if your name is Ed. Man, a scientific analysis of Evil Dead is going to be really fucking hard to do. The possessed Ed lets them all know that the demonic forces have a simple request. They simply want them all to die. No big deal. So as it tries to free Henrietta from her prison, Ash rushes to get the splitting axe. The reason there are multiple colors of blood in this movie is allegedly that they were trying to avoid an X rating and go for a family-friendly R-rated movie. Also, allegedly that didn't work, and they actually ended up having to cut a few scenes anyway. Unfortunately, the old plan of waiting until morning for the sun to drive away the evil doesn't sound nearly as proactive as these guys would like. Fortunately for them, Anne's father, Professor Raymond Noby, is now an Obi-Wan-style ghost of knowledge, played by John Peakes. After going over how fucked his soul is, he does cut to the chase and spoil the ending for them.
Your salvation lies there.
Yes, the missing pages of the Book of the Dead, discovered by Anne during her trip to the Library of the Dead. Unfortunately for them, though, Bobby Joe is a fucking idiot, and being spooked after she is touched by one hand too many, she rushes out into the dark night, straight into the evil-possessed forest, where we get to see the trees have honed their tentacle powers very admirably between movies. Now, this doesn't go to tree rape territory, so don't worry. She just gets fucking horribly killed, therefore not offensive. This does mean, though, that even though Annie manages to translate the pages and has the power to dispel the evil right then and there, Jake will be having none of that until they run out and kill themselves looking for Bobby Joe.
These pages, at least we have a chance. Bunch of mumbo-jumbo bullshit.
Okay, I know I oftentimes say that horror movie characters kill themselves with their own stupidity, but seriously, Jake, what the fuck are you intending to do here? Run out, find Bobby Joe, best case scenario, bring her back and say, hey, good news, girlfriend, we can dispel the evil with the shit I just threw in the basement with the demon. Well, love conquers all, am I right? So they go outside searching for the lost woman. Strangely enough, the path they came in on has mysteriously vanished. After spending a few minutes shouting out into the darkness... Okay, so thrown into tree, possessed, unless you're Jake. But your possession is a quasi-possession, but if you get bitten, then you become double possessed. But that possession can be cured with amputation. Am I getting this right? Annie doesn't give a fuck, rushing back into the cabin to try and protect herself from the demonic ash. Eventually, she finds herself hiding by the entrance, the dagger in hand, ready to strike. Good, now that he's out of the way, we can finally progress the plot. Oh, right, demonic possession. Have you tried turning him off and back on again? Also, Jake is still alive, so Annie must drag his useless ass around to save him from Ash. However, she's shit at strategic placements, putting him right next to the cellar door, where Henrietta is more than capable of getting a hold of him and dragging the son of a bitch all the way down to the cellar with her. But all things considered, wouldn't that mean that the lock on the cellar door is just moot? I mean, if Jake's thick ass can be dragged down there no problem, then how exactly was Ash not able to just wiggle his way out earlier? Point of it all is, Ash gets in no problem and chucks Anne's ass into the wall. This does not result in possession, because, oh fuck, I really have to figure out how this all works. Either way, it looks like the demon is just about to get what he wants. But lo and behold, the power of love and screaming painfully reverts Ash back to his normal self. Of course, Annie's going to take a little more convincing, so he gets her to stop attacking him with the axe by letting her know he's back to normal.
Damn it! I said I was all right! Are you listening to me?
I'm okay. I'm better than okay. I'm fantastic. This is the best day of my life, you got it. She eventually stops trying to kill him, especially as they have a new problem. They need the pages, but they lie in the basement with Henrietta. So Ash must load up and prepare to enter the lair of the demon, now equipped with a motherfucking chainsaw hand, and sawing down the barrel of his shotgun for ease of single-handed use.
Groovy.
Not quite as awesome as two motherfucking chainsaw hands with integrated 12-gauge shotguns, but it'll do. With that, Ash descends into the cellar to face a deadly, evil beast in the darkness, where he cannot tell its location, all the while being mindful of his true mission to collect a bunch of pages for... Hey, I finally figured out where the fuck Slenderman got it from! Well, fuck it, the point is he finds all the little parts without too much trouble, and even gets all the way back to Annie. Turns out, though, Henrietta was waiting underneath the stairs the whole time, and leaps out at the last second to fuck shit up for the two of them. I do admire the stop motion at work here, even if it is a bit janky at times, especially by today's standards. At its worst, it has a sort of Jason and the Argonauts charm to it. After all is said and done, Ash manages to dismember Henrietta quickly and cleanly, and silence her for good.
Swallow this.
But after all that, the big thing that sticks out for me is the very odd cocking sound on an internal hammer shotgun. There's still this spell to drive away the evil, though. Two parts of it, in fact. The first is to summon the evil to grant it physical form. This is done well ahead of time, allowing said evil to show up and start destroying the fuck out of the cabin. Things look pretty grim, especially when Ash's hand pops up yet again to fucking murder Annie, but with her dying breath, she finishes reciting the spell to banish the evil into a warp in space and time.
You did it, kid. By God.
Only problem is she never got around to the verse where you turn that shit off. This results in Ash being pulled into the portal as well, which spits his ass out at the local Renaissance fair. You can tell me all you like how he's in medieval times, but I'm pretty sure knights didn't go around wearing hockey gloves spray-painted silver back then. Not knowing what he is, they plan to kill him, but then a beast appears in the sky. Nice shot. He had to time it just right so he got the beast when it turned into practical effects and wasn't just a superimposed image. With that done, happy ending! All the knights gather around Ash and declare that he is the savior of them all, the warrior from the sky who has come to rid the land of the evil menace. Such sentiments that leave Ash screaming his distress, but whatever. Whew, that was a fucking lot going on. But anyway, that was Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, and it's pretty much the definition of never a dull moment. That's not something you generally find in the horror genre. A lot can be said for suspense and build-up, especially when used properly, but Evil Dead 2 doesn't do too much in that sense. Mostly there's always something new happening to arrest your attention and keep you at the edge of your seat. In some ways, that makes the whole movie come off with more of an action vibe than horror, as demons and the undead don't mean things are automatically qualified to call themselves horror media. That's like saying Ash's shotgun means this counts as a western. However, this was marketed as horror and the sequel of a horror film, so that counts for something. As horror, it can be said there wasn't much for scares outside of jump startles and buckets of gore. But of course, it must be noted that Raimi wasn't really going for brooding horror this time around. In Evil Dead 2, the purpose of the film was to entertain and play to Raimi's strengths as a director. In my opinion, it does a fucking brilliant job at that, with a well-stitched together story, layers of problems going on all at once, and the fact that it doesn't take itself too seriously. There are a few problems here and there, some minor nitpicks, some shallow characterization, and some issues with consistency fucking with my suspension of disbelief, but at the end of the day, I fucking loved this movie, coming in at 4 undead girlfriend chainsaw attacks out of 5. Definitely a high 4, but I really don't like giving out too many 5s or 1s. I mean, the average movie is a lot closer to a 3. That's why it's called average. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I've been Dr. Shado. And remember, when the deer starts laughing at you, you got issues.
Do you hear what I'm saying? I'm all right!